This Friday marks the start of the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing, China, and our athletes are being warned to protect themselves from the most surveilled countries in the world. Every movement is tracked by an extensive array of cameras armed with facial recognition software. Hotel phones are tapped. Online activity is monitored. The FBI is urging athletes to leave their personal cell phones at home and buy temporary so-called burner phones. An ominous column out today carries an ominous warning for those visiting the Olympics, too. Just know that there's no freedom of speech, no freedom of religion, no freedom of expression. The writer joins me right now, former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, also governor of the state I live in, Ambassador Nikki Haley. Thank you for joining us, Ambassador. So your op-ed was very, very interesting to me. We all know about the atrocities that have gone on, have gone on in China, in Beijing and in China. Tell us about the security risks to our athletes and anyone visiting those athletes.
Well, Senator Risch and I wanted to put this op-ed out because, of course, we're proud of our athletes. I, first of all, thought we should have boycotted the Olympics. I still think we should boycott the Olympics. I don't think China cares whether Biden shows up. They care whether our athletes show up. But I think we need to do more than just give our athletes a burner phone. I think we need to tell our athletes exactly what they're walking into, which is a surveillance state that believes genocide is okay, that will be watching every move, listen to every word, and pay attention to every action that these athletes take. And if they do one thing wrong, they have already said they will be punished according to Chinese law. That's dangerous. And I think that the athletes are going unprotected. Many of them can't go with their families due to COVID protocols. And someone needed to tell them, this is what you're walking into, and this is why you need to be careful.
It's a scary concept. I know when I lived in D.C., anytime, I've been to the Russian embassy, I've been to the Chinese embassy. Anytime you go to one of those embassies, they tell you, leave your phone at home. At worst, at least turn the thing off, but they can download all the information in there. It's a scary concept. Ambassador, you know, I also like to talk about something else that's really kind of popping on the world stage right now regarding Ukraine. Biden, is he leading us into yet another Afghanistan? What are your thoughts on the situation that's happening in Ukraine, Russian border?
Well, Eric, I think it's because of Afghanistan that we have the problems with Russia wanting to invade Ukraine, that we have the planes flying over Taiwan by China, the reason that we have Iran sitting there calling all the shots in terms of terrorism. It's the reason that Kim in North Korea is shooting ballistic missiles. It's all because of the failure that Biden had in Afghanistan. And the worst part is Biden continues to show weakness. Russia would not be doing this if they felt any deterrence whatsoever. China would not be sitting there flying these planes, but because Biden sits back and waits, that's what we're watching. Biden should have already put sanctions on Russia just to deter them. They should have already stopped them in terms of their financial transactions. They should have stopped them in terms of making sure that anything they do with Huawei, which would have affected the Russian people, would have been stopped. There were multiple options that Biden has had, and he's chosen not to take them. He's waiting for Putin to do something to act, and at that point, it'll just be too late.
Ambassador, I have about a minute or so, maybe a little less. Just weigh in on this. If I'm not mistaken, I believe when Joe Biden was vice president, Russia annexed the Crimea, right? And I believe that was about the same time, right about this time during the Olympics. Are we going to see another annexing of, say, perhaps Ukraine, or another move on Ukraine during the Olympics years later, 8 years later?
My personal opinion is Russia cares too much about the medals that they win at the Olympics. According to the International Committee, which, if we can trust them, if anything like that would happen, they would disqualify Russia from participating. So my gut tells me that somewhere between the last day of the Olympics, February 20th, and March 1st, when Putin has to give his State of the Union address, that's when Putin's going to see his window. Certainly, he could decide to do this during the Olympics, but I think he is trying to play nice with President Xi in China, and I think he wants to see how many medals his athletes can win without the Olympic Committee throwing them out. So that would be my guess if I had to look at it. And there's a lot that the U.S. can do ahead of that.
And, folks, you're looking at someone who would know, ambassador of many, many years, also a great governor of the great state of South Carolina. Nikki Haley, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, Eric.